Home invasion. Hi everyone. This incident happened about 5 years ago. It is a story that I never really tell anyone anymore because most people are either uncomfortable hearing it or make well meaning comments about what I should have done in this situation without really understanding how directly your mind works when you are experiencing absolute panic. But you guys seem to get it, so here's my story. Was living in a relatively nice apartment in downtown Memphis, working as an ophthalmic technician. I arrived home from work at my usual time, around 4:30 p.m. I unlocked the door and I went inside. I set my phone, my wallet, and my keys on the kitchen island. Hearing my heavy metal door swing shut loudly behind me, and I began taking care of some errands around the house. Having grown up in a small town, it was a habit for me to not lock my door during the day, especially when I knew my husband would be home soon anyway. I have never forgotten to lock my door once in the 5 years since this day. I walked through my bathroom and into the large walk-in closet, and I began hanging the laundry that I had started earlier in the day before work. My front door opened and I smiled with surprise. My husband was home a little early, and I happily called out to him.
I'm here, babe.
I was met with silence, and I slowly began to feel that sinking feeling of something is wrong crawl up my spine. I tried to shake it off, thinking my husband simply hadn't heard me, and I walked out into my living room slash kitchen area. Standing on the other side of my kitchen island was a complete stranger. He was male, older than me. I would estimate his 50s, but it's hard for me to recall exact facial features or details from this moment. And he was just standing there, staring at me. No ski mask, no weapon, just watching me. I wonder if he had maybe walked into the wrong apartment and was going to apologize and leave, but he just continued to stare. I then realized I needed to do something other than just gape at this stranger in my house. I stood taller. I puffed my chest in an attempt to look more threatening, which is hard to do as a small female, and I used a loud, clear voice, telling him to get the heck out of my apartment, that he had no business being there. He completely ignored me, like I hadn't spoken. Then he began to pick up my things, my cell phone, my keys, my wallet. He picked them up methodically and put them into his own pockets. That's when it truly hit me that this person was dangerous. I was naive enough to believe this was all a mistake until that very moment. I darted forward towards the only other device that would allow me to get help, my computer. I had to take a few steps closer to the intruder in order to reach it, but still had about 12 to 15 feet between us. That is 3 to 4 meters. So I knew I could grab it and run before he could reach me. As I picked it up and turned to run, I saw him start to move right after me. I sprinted back towards the bathroom because it was the only place I could go, and put two lockdowns doors between us, my bathroom door and the closet door. I slammed the door and I locked the first door, and within seconds I could hear him messing with it, trying to open it. I ran into the closet and I locked that door too. I opened my computer and I got into Facebook Messenger to contact my husband. I sent message after message, pleading with him to call 911 and tell them that there was intruder in the apartment. He got the messages within minutes and assured me that he had a dispatcher on the phone and was leaving work himself to try and to get me if he could. I waited and I waited. The bathroom door opened and the intruder came inside. He moved to the closet door and it started to try to break that door down too. I could hear him kicking out. Here's the part where people usually start giving me advice on how I should have acted, but all I can tell you is that I was frozen, with fear, with shock, I don't know, but I didn't scream or cry or search for a weapon in that dark closet. I didn't brace the door or try to hold it closed. I just kneeled in my closet and I waited to die because I just knew that's what was going to happen. People like to tell me that I live in an apartment. Surely, if I had screamed, someone would have heard it and come to help. Surely, there was something heavy enough in my closet to use to defend myself. Hell, even the laptop would hurt if I swung it at someone. Why didn't I do anything? Uh, I don't really have an answer for that. But the closet door miraculously held. I heard frustrated footsteps go back out into the living area of my apartment. I heard things breaking, bottles shattering, my drawers and refrigerator and cabinets being flung open as things were torn out of them. I continued to sit in that closet, silently crying, wanting to leave, but feeling that death was inevitable. I felt awful about my selfishness in that moment, but I messaged my mom, who lived about a 15-hour drive away, and I told her what was happening. I desperately wanted comfort, and I want her to tell my brothers and her how much I love her. I'm not a parent, but I can only imagine the fear and helplessness I put her through, knowing her daughter was in danger and there was nothing she could do to help. She messaged me constantly, begging me to keep replying. I told her I would as long as I could, but I also told her to tell my brothers I love them. I told her also to help my husband through whatever happened next, if it ended badly for me. The intruder started messing with the closet door again, mumbling disjointed words that I just couldn't really distinguish. I remember hoping that the police would get to the apartment before my husband, that he wouldn't be the one to find me in whatever state this invader left me in. The front door opened again, and it was my husband, shouting for me. The intruder walked out towards the living room and the kitchen area again, where my front door was located, and I opened the door and I darted from the closet to find my husband on the ground with him, pinning him in place. The man kept mumbling, at times yelling, but never really put up much resistance. This entire part is a blur for me. I remember feeling like the room was spinning, filled with fear mostly for my husband at this point. Eventually the police found the apartment. It took them about 25 minutes to arrive, which still blows my mind. I know time seems to move slowly during scary situations, so I thought it was less than that. But from the time my husband dialed 911 to the time officers arrived, it was 25 excruciating minutes. This isn't intended to bash them in any way. It just always seemed like this was an unusually long response time for a home invasion. I got my things back. They got them back from the man and took him out of my apartment. I numbly went through the process of filing a police report, telling them what happened exactly. One of the officers commented that I should really keep my door locked at all times. I remember feeling like he was being insensitive at the time. or blaming me for what happened. But later, I recognized his words were coming from experience. I'm sure he's seen the situation end differently for other women. Within 30 minutes, the scariest incident of my life was over, but I've carried the fear, the violation, the anxiety of having someone intrude into my space for years. If it happened to me once again, it could happen again. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. Please consider continuing because this isn't all doom and gloom. If this or something similar has happened to you and you're still struggling with the aftermath of it, the sleepless nights, the laying awake, listening for sounds or forced entry, the nightmares, the constant checking and rechecking your logs, this is what eventually helped me. Oh my god, this is hard. A year after this took place, my husband and I moved to the Midwest for his job. We selected a safe town with a nice apartment complex and chose a third floor apartment with only one point of entry. I looked up every statistics on crime for the neighborhood, finding that an isolated incident of car theft was the only thing reported in decades. I still couldn't sleep at night. It was definitely better than staying in the same apartment in Memphis, but my husband often works night shifts now, and I simply couldn't continue being terrified to sleep at night. I realized my biggest fear wasn't that something could happen again, but that if it did, I was just as unprepared now as I was then. I hadn't changed anything other than my locking my door. That's it. And I knew I would likely freeze up again and live my life up to being able to hide well enough or having a door hold long enough to save me, and that was just unacceptable. I walked into a martial arts school with an excellent self-defense program. I introduced myself and I started taking classes. At first, I was fairly quiet, the usual, hiding in the back of the room and generally keeping to myself. My instructor, who is both incredibly kind and incredibly insightful, slowly but surely built up my confidence and brought me out of my bubble of fear. After several months of training, I finally shared my reason for taking classes with him, and he's worked with me tirelessly to give me the ability to protect myself in any environment. I've been trained for years now. I've been doing it for a while. And the difference he has made in every aspect of my life is unbelievable. The meek, quiet girl that waited to die in her closet doesn't exist. I am a confident person. I am strong, confident. I am worthy of living and protecting myself in my own home. I no longer am ashamed of how I handled the situation I was in, but I also understand what steps I can take to ensure that I am safe. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but it was worth it. Recognize this might not be a solution or option for everyone. Your experience is valid, and however you decide to cope with your own story is the right choice for you. This is how, this is how I happened to it, and it's worked well for me. Thank you again for listening. I am a little afraid to share this, but I'm not sure how people will respond. Maybe doing so will help someone else that's feeling alone with this. If anyone is struggling with their own story and wants a kind ear to listen, I'm here. Stay safe out here and out there.